Hi guys, it's Reba. Welcome back. About a month ago, I made a journal ecosystem video, and in the process, I realized that I am very uncomfortable with the actual act of journaling or diary keeping. In the video, I expressed this discomfort around journaling and I asked for advice or tips or just to hear if anyone else felt similarly to me. I received so many recommendations for methods, mindsets, and practices that people found successful or had tried and enjoyed. And I also received some comments in solidarity, so I didn't feel so alone in my discomfort with journaling. After making that video, reading those comments, and reflecting on how I currently approach my journaling habit, it made me realize that I don't really have a good why for why I'm doing it. I think I just feel like I should journal. And doing something just because you should is never really a great reason to do it. And then, secondly, I really didn't have clarity around what the purpose of it was going to be for and whether I wanted it to be read again. Basically, I was using this book to do several different things. So, record memories, and then also I would use it for therapy prompts or that kind of introspection style journaling. And because there's a bit of a hodgepodge in that book, I think I have some confusion around whether I want to keep it and read it again or risk other people reading it, or is there enough in there that's so private and maybe something I don't necessarily need to refer back to but was good for the moment. Basically, my journal as a tool, I'm not clear on what it's a tool for. And I think that has been part of the block and the awkwardness I've been feeling towards it. And what does all this have to do with the artist's way? Well, I ended up asking myself, okay, what's your why? Why do you think it's so important to have a journaling practice right now? Why do I want to keep a journal? What do I want its purpose to be? Right now, my answer is I just want to be a better writer. I want to improve my writing. I want another tool to help me write. So, Morning Pages, a tool from Julia Cameron's The Artist Way, seemed like an obvious choice for my first journaling experiment. And since I already like going on solo artist dates, which is the other necessary tool in this program that she recommends, I thought I might as well just do the full Artist's Way 12-week program and make it my summer project. So that is what I am doing, and I'm going to vlog this first week of it for you guys. Julia Cameron wrote this book after teaching workshops in New York for some time, teaching creative people her own practice and her techniques for creativity. And she took those teachings, put them into writing, into packets and documents, and her friend Mark Bryan encouraged her to put him into a book, create a book. And so now all of her teachings are accessible through this course. In her introduction, she gives a little bit of insight into how she discovered and built this practice for herself and why it helped her so much and why it helps other people so much. But essentially, her background was in film. So it sounds like she may have been a screenwriter involved in that way and got sober. And I think at that point had to rebuild her creative practice without it being attached to alcohol and to drinking. She talks about letting go of being the suffering artist and leaning on vices and other destructive behaviors to generate creativity. So that's where this kind of rebuilding and recreating a creative practice started for her. And she definitely believes that creating is spiritual and you're tapping into creative energy. So, yeah, it can feel a little woo woo, and that might put some people off, but she's pretty clear in this intro not to get caught up in the semantics. She says what we were really talking about when she's using the word God is creative energy. And I like this. She says, no matter what your age or your life path, whether making art is your career or your hobby or your dream, it is not too late or too egotistical or too selfish or too silly to work on your creativity. The course itself is 12 weeks, and today is day 1 of week 1. And for each week, there is a chapter that has different exercises in it and a different theme. But you have to every week do your morning pages every day, and every week go on an artist date. So she says for morning pages, there are 3 pages of longhand writing and strictly stream of consciousness. There's no wrong way to do morning pages. I already did my morning pages today. I just got this cheap little composition book, one to take the pressure off and the of it being precious and having to be good. She recommends just writing them and sticking them in an envelope, or if you're doing them in a notebook, like don't leaf back, don't read through. So they really aren't meant to be read. This morning when I was doing my pages, I found myself thinking about another comment that was left on my journal ecosystem video. The person that left the comment was talking about doing journaling that was more forward thinking rather than kind of spiraling around your past like events or things that have happened to you in your past, but more thinking ahead, planning for the future. That was kind of the mindset I was in this morning. I think also I was doing those pages at the beginning of the day, so I know that my mind starts to generate ideas or start planning for the day first thing in the morning, and I think that had something to do with it. And also, it's the first of the month. It's the beginning of the summer. It's the beginning of this challenge that I'm embarking on. So, with that, this kind of newness and transitioning into a new season, I naturally feel excited and motivated, and it's easier to think ahead and start looking ahead at what's to come. That's kind of where my morning pages were this morning. It was quite a positive experience, and it wasn't too difficult filling the 3 pages this morning. As for a artist date, that is something I also need to plan for this week. I'm thinking Sunday might be my best day, might be the only day I can make time to take myself out on a solo date. Besides the morning pages and the artist date, the bulk of the course is to do the chapter for each week. So each week there's a corresponding chapter, and you're supposed to read it at the beginning of the week. Then at the end of the chapter, there's a list of tasks, and you're supposed to pick like about half of them to do and then do them over the course of the week. Julia Cameron says to pick those that appeal to you and those you strongly resist. This is because we often resist what we most need, which I think is an interesting criteria, kind of challenging yourself to do something that you feel reluctant to do and seeing what that sparks, I find interesting. So I will read chapter 1 later today. This first chapter is called Recovering a Sense of Safety, And it sounds like it's kind of just about creative recovery. The readings, tasks, and exercises aim at allowing you to establish a sense of safety, which will enable you to explore your creativity with less fear. So that is how you begin. I will, again, read this later today, kind of decide and plan out what tasks I want to do this week. And then about halfway through the week, I will do another little sit down check in and reflect on how things are going so far, how the morning pages are feeling. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap up the chatting for today. I'll vlog a little bit in between these chats. Tonight, I am meeting up with Kat from Cat's Fields Notes and Yenna from the Modern Ajuma. We are going to meet up at Bryant Park and read in public with a bunch of strangers. Yenna's in town this week, and we saw this event, and it looked super cute. So we're going to get together tonight. That will be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. That is all for now. I will see you in a little bit. Good afternoon. It is day 4, and I'm going to check in, let you know how things are going so far. I should say that I'm approaching this from a bit of a skeptical place. I don't think that this will completely change my life, but I am very open to whatever I can take away from it. I do think there's going to be some really great stuff in here. So, this first section of the chapter 1 is about shadow artists. The shadow artist is someone who will not claim, for whatever reason, that they are an artist or could be an artist. Obviously, a lot of factors come into play. I don't think Julia Cameron is interested in like that discussion of socioeconomic and different privileges that allow people to work full time as an artist or to really go down that path. I think a lot of people obviously don't pursue art for those reasons. But I do think what she's like actually interested in is like whether or not you're being paid to be an artist or that you can make it your full-time career. I think she just genuinely believes that everybody can tap into this creative energy that exists, that everyone can be creative in some way. One of the things that I liked that I underlined here is shadow artists are gravitating to their rightful tribe but cannot yet claim their birthright. Very often, audacity, not talent, makes one person an artist and another a shadow artist, hiding in the shadows, afraid to step out and expose the dream to the light, fearful that it will disintegrate to the touch. I do resonate with that. I obviously hang around the writer space because I'm such a reader. And whenever I've thought about writing, I have a very negative stream of thoughts that are, oh, you can't be a writer because you don't have the right education, or you haven't been writing as long as everybody else, you started way too late, things like that. And I think she touches on that later in the chapter, that you have an enemy within, which is these core negative beliefs that everyone holds that are huge blockers for trying something creative, trying an art. The other thing I like that she believes is that your inner artist is a child. I highlighted here that in order to move from the realm of shadows into the light of creativity, shadow artists must learn to take themselves seriously. Creativity is play, but for shadow artists, learning to allow themselves to play is hard work. And then, along with that, she is very deliberate in reminding you that your early work is going to be bad. And she says that judging your early artistic efforts is artist abuse. This kind of judgment shows up as measuring your early work against your idols and the masters of this art that you are just beginning. She says, we want to be great, immediately great, but that is not how recovery works. She says, it is an awkward, tentative, even embarrassing process. I think this is like absolutely something that keeps people from taking on a new creative endeavor. You start working on something and you've been admiring the work of others for so long. And when you finally do it yourself and it doesn't look like theirs, it can be very discouraging. The next part I wanted to read to you that I really liked was, remember that in order to recover as an artist, you must be willing to be a bad artist. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. By being willing to be a bad artist, you have a chance to be an artist, and perhaps, over time, a very good one. It's something I need to remember. I'm not great at being patient with myself and letting myself be bad at things. She also talks about ways to combat your enemy within, and that's by doing affirmations. So there's a self-allyship section where she talks about taking your negative core beliefs that you have about yourself and flipping them and transforming them into positive affirmations. As for the tasks for this week, a lot of them center on reflecting on your past and identifying where some of those negative core beliefs came from. She believes like a lot of it stems from things people may have said to you when you were younger and you've internalized it. I found myself thinking about that a little bit on my second day of morning pages. I ended up writing about two of my elementary school teachers. I had a fifth grade teacher who I just don't think she knew how to support me in and provide what I needed in order to learn and be a good student. And so I really struggled that year. And then my sixth grade year was in such contrast. My teacher was so good. She was wonderful at identifying and seeing what I was drawn to, what I was good at, what I was passionate about. I was a big reader. I loved reading, obviously, and I think I was good at spelling and some other kind of language, arts, English stuff. But things like math were harder. And so I think she was really good at empowering me in and towards the things I was good at and that I enjoyed. And then she was also really great, not just with me, but all of her students, in seeing where we were at when it came to things like math, especially, and finding where we were. I feel like she made me feel like it was okay if I had to work harder at math. That like it may come harder, I may have to put in more effort at math, but that was okay. and other things came easy to me, and that was great. But even if I had to work harder at something else, that was also okay, and there was nothing wrong with that. So I feel like I had a really good experience in sixth grade that really helped after a really difficult fifth grade experience. Anyways, I ended up writing about that. And then the third day of my morning pages, I was kind of worrying about some things in the future, goals, desires. And so I think it was kind of just more meditating a little bit on that, and trying to be speak to myself in like a rational, proactive way instead of spiraling, but just like being very matter of fact, like, okay, these are things I'm worrying about. And then this morning I woke up pretty tired and also pretty anxious. I think I had a lot going on in my head this morning. I wanted to get a lot done, but I also had a hair appointment today, which is great. I got my hair done, but having an appointment during the day always makes me feel a little bit like overwhelmed with how little time I have left over. I feel it breaks up my day. So I'm like, I have this much time in the morning, I have this much time in the afternoon. And so I actually think my morning pages helped because I wanted to just lay out and write down all the things that I was wanting to do and worrying about getting done. And so I was able to do that in a way that was constructive and allowed me to, like, instead of having those things in the back of my head, I was able to get them out on paper this morning, which I thought was great. I've been enjoying morning pages so far. I don't think I've written anything profound, which I know is the point. One of the reasons that I also wanted to do this morning pages practice was I wanted an alternative thing to do in the morning that wasn't scrolling on my phone. And I know I'm not alone in this, but I do find myself when I wake up in the morning gravitating to my phone because I want to check something, I want to look something up, and my brain is awake and it wants to start like doing something, and my phone's right there. And so the morning pages have been a nice place for my brain to be first thing in the morning. That's not my phone, but it feels productive, and it's been a nice way to start my day the last few days. Otherwise, I still need to plan my artist date for the week. I haven't decided where I want to go yet, but I still think I'm going to do it on Sunday. You'll find out what I decide to do in the vlog footage later. But other than that, I will check in with you at the end of the week and reflect on how I feel this first week of the Artist's Way went. Wait, this is cute. First week of the Artist Way is complete. How did it go? What am I feeling about it? I think I like it. I think I'm in. I'm actually really feeling good and excited for the rest of the course. I know I only have a week of experience, but I would say if you are at all curious about trying the Artist's Way, to go for it. As a skeptic, I'm still enjoying it and I still think it's worth trying and see what resonates with you. If you desire a routine to start building a creative practice off of, I think this gives you good structure and at least gives you something to experiment with and build off of. I'm interested to see how the rest of the weeks go, but so far, so good. At the end of each week, she asks you to do a little check in your notebook and kind of just reflect on the past week and how you felt while doing the morning pages and the date and the tasks. She says, the purpose of check ins is to give you a journal of your creative journey. It is my hope that you will later share the tools with others and in doing so find your own notes invaluable. Okay, so morning pages. I was able to do my pages every single day this week. Saturday was the only day when I didn't do them first thing. I just slept late and then ended up getting coffee with my husband and my dog first. And then when I got back, I did my pages. I can definitely see a difference between doing your morning pages first thing and then doing them later. It's definitely beneficial to start your day with morning pages. I could tell that I was a lot less focused, a lot more scattered, less present when I pushed the morning pages back and did them after some other morning tasks. So I definitely see the benefit and the importance of morning pages being the first thing you do. Because I was so scattered and unfocused on Saturday, I ended up looking for some prompts, like something to like ground me in my morning pages. And I follow an account on Instagram, which I will post somewhere here. But they post poetry prompts every single month. And so I found their June poetry prompts and ended up just taking one of those to use as my prompt for Saturday. And it actually helped me ground and get present in the morning pages. I ended up writing the prompt phrase, which was forgotten song or something like that. But I ended up just writing that over and over again until I generated something new. And from there, I was able to get into a flow state. So that worked very well for me. And then what I ended up doing is on the back page of my notebook, I wrote down a bunch of the other prompts that sounded like I could work with just in case I get stuck or scattered again. I have a little list of prompts at the back to get going. That's something that was useful for me. Otherwise, I was able to kind of show up for the morning pages a lot easier on the days in which I began my day with morning pages. I ended up going on an artist day. I was able to make that work on Sunday. And you saw that I ended up going on the ferry, going to the river. I actually was kind of stressed out about choosing the artist day. I think because I was vlogging, I was like, I want it to be aesthetic. I want it to look nice and be cool and cute. And then ultimately, I was like, what do I really want to do this week? And because we are just getting warmer and warmer and the days are getting hotter and hotter, I was like, I want to do something outside before it gets too hot. And I also was feeling so busy last week that I wanted something a little bit slower and calming. And for me, that's water. I think being by the water is quite serene and quite calming and grounding. And the easiest way for me to get to the water is by going to the waterfront, going over to the East River. And so I headed over to the Dumbo waterfront and hung out there, took a little walk along the park there, and then got on the ferry and took a very short ferry ride up to Williamsburg and back. I made a little stop in Trader Joe's, which wasn't very much artist date because I was running an errand. But I will say the first part where I was just at the water and on the ferry was really fun and relaxing. I tried as hard as I could to just be present and have a nice time and nurture my inner artist. I wish I could have spent longer there, of course, but it was still really nice and nice to get out of my house, nice to be outside and just have a change of scenery that didn't demand anything from me. And so it was, yeah, a lovely little artist date. And the last thing she has you check in on are whether or not there were some issues or anything significant in your week that came up. I certainly did not do this week perfectly. I could have spent more time doing the tasks, but I will say the tasks and the reflection that I did do did bring up some interesting things for me. I did notice that I have some blocks or some censor language internally that kind of keeps me from fully embracing a creative practice or being creative. One of the things I noticed that came up was just feeling not enough, not good enough, not capable of like actually doing well. Yeah, I mean these feelings of not good enough I've struggled with a lot and they definitely came up this week. Beyond just feeling not good enough or that I will never be good or that I will never feel fulfilled. Beyond that, I also noticed that I would feel undeserving of working towards this creative writing artistic practice that I don't always feel like I deserve this, that this isn't for me, that this is not a life that I can live. I don't know why, but I don't feel deserving. And for some reason that makes me a little bit emotional. But yeah, that came up this week. And she encourages when those things come up, the encouragement there is to reframe those negative thoughts into positive affirmations. So I did try after my morning pages to write affirmations that were specific to some of those feelings that I'm having and trying to rewrite those, I guess, on paper and hopefully rewrite them internally. But yeah, I think that alone is pretty valuable to notice and acknowledge stuff like that. I think starting this week, I was like, I'm not blocked. I'm not inhibited in any way towards creativity. I'm ready and I'm excited and I'm just anxious and feeling urgent. But I really did notice these blocks and these things that are holding me back, making me feel discouraged. That's my check-in for the week. Again, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited for week 2 and to see what's to come over the next 12 weeks. I will be intermittently vlogging, so I'll do a few more vlogs throughout the process. And then again, once this is all done and I'm on the other side of the course, I will do a video in which I reflect on my experience doing the artist's way. The last thing I want to mention is that I watched Ivana's latest video this week. If you haven't watched any of her videos yet, definitely go check them out. On her channel, she's been doing some bad art vlogs, a whole series where she's taking different classes and learning different visual art mediums. And it is so cool. It is so inspiring to see. But on her last video, she mentioned that she'll be doing a video about her experience doing the artist's way. And I am so excited to see that. I'm so excited to hear about someone else doing it. So if you are enjoying watching videos of people attempting the artist's way, keep an eye on Ivana's channel as well. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a like. And if you are planning on doing some reading this summer, my video from last week was all about my summer TBR and an invitation to join me in a summer reading challenge. So if you need some help selecting books, go ahead and watch that. Otherwise, stay tuned for further Artist's Way videos. And thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.